Well, blessings there, everybody. Things hesitating a little bit today, isn't it? Welcome back to the study of the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is the third video of lesson 1. So go to 2 Kings particularly and read these 8 or 9 verses right here, and a couple of verses over 2 Chronicles that give some insight. We've been looking at how evil Manasseh was, but you know what? The Lord warned him and warned his people also. The Lord spoke. The Lord warned them. He spoke through the law. He spoke through the word that they had. Remember, the kings were actually supposed to sit down and write their own, not translation, but transcription of the law when they became king, though we don't know if they actually did it or not. But what we see right here is that the Lord warned him through his servants, the prophets. God's servants, the prophets, brought warning. And he tells us, we'll see some more stuff about that a little while later, but the warning came about because of what Manasseh had done, these horrible abominations that we've seen in the previous 2 videos. And he says, you've done more evil than all the Amorites did before him. This is what the prophets were telling him, more than one prophet. This is what the prophets were saying, that you made Judah sin with his idols. I mean, just horrible things. He says, because of this, here's what the Lord is going to do. The Lord says, I'm going to bring such a calamity on Jerusalem and Judah that whoever hears of it, both his ears will tingle. Now this is the Lord bringing judgment and discipline against his own people. And it's going to be a horrific thing. He says, I'm going to stretch a line over Jerusalem, the line of Samaria, and I'm going to plummet the house of Ahab. He said, I'm going to continue the destruction I've started in the north there. He said, I'm going to wipe Jerusalem as one wipes a dish. This is the Lord speaking through the prophets to the king, wiping it, turning it upside down. The Lord's very graphic about this. And then the Lord says this, I'm going to abandon the remnant of my inheritance. Now, a remnant, by definition, is a little portion that is left over. So God's saying, I'm not going to annihilate them necessarily, but I'm going to abandon them. They likely wished that God had just gone ahead and done them in and killed them. He says, I'm going to deliver them over into the hand of their enemies, and they will become plunder and spoil to the enemies. Now, why is the Lord going to do all this? Because they have done evil in his sight, is what he says. You've done evil in my sight. You have provoked me to anger since the day that your fathers came across from Egypt. The Lord says that several times in the Word. Then he continues on, Manasseh shed very much innocent blood. Innocent blood. You know, Jewish tradition tells us that Manasseh was the one that killed Isaiah, and the way that he did it. So Isaiah could have been one of these prophets that brought this word, probably was one of the prophets that brought this word. And Jewish tradition tells us that he sawed him in half, put Isaiah in a log and cut him in half. You see something like that mentioned over in Hebrews 11 in the great cloud of witnesses. It talks about that some were sawn asunder, cut in half. So Manasseh shed a tremendous amount of innocent blood until he filled Jerusalem from one end to another. And then he says, besides of all the sin which he made Judah do and doing evil in the sight of the Lord. Now, in 2 Kings at this point right here, you see that Manasseh, as he's buried with his fathers, and that's it. It picks up his son. 2 Chronicles 33 gives us some more insight into the end of his life, and we'll look at that tomorrow. Make sure you don't miss this one, okay? I'm Dale from the Precept classes in Cullman, Alabama, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.